Yeah, when I was a teenager, when I like hit this like nose piercing rebellious stage, but like you say, quite like a unassuming rebel, I guess. I was with some of my mum and dad's friends, and he'd said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I'd said, like really kind of stony-faced, an anarchist. And they all just like rolled around laughing, like they thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And I was like, oh God, why won't anyone take me seriously? And I still think it's one of the greatest things I've ever said. I know. It's funny. Yeah. No, it's good. It's an off-camera moment then, isn't it?
Always keep rolling, that's the trick.
The trick, then they'll tell you the worst story. I grew up in Wakefield, and yeah, I guess I was there all through school. It was just a bit of a small holding, lots of animals. My mum works with horses, so there was always sort of horses, dogs, cats around, and she got her like training certification so she could teach, and she liked doing dressage and teaching that, so that we had a arena at home, so there was always people coming for lessons. I really enjoyed riding the ponies and going to shows and sort of watching my mum and my dad rode as well. They do a lot of like hunter trials, they call it, where you go and like jump over fences in a field, and I used to love going and watch them do that. So I was very kind of outdoors and busy and always doing something, and I'm an only child, so I think the animals tended to be my company, and yeah, no, it was really great. I had a really nice childhood. I think in school I think I had the ability to have done a lot better, but I was always very sort of distracted. I was quite happy making people laugh. I was always talking too much. Yeah, my school reports would probably always say, you know, could try harder if she concentrated. I liked the kind of arty subjects, but I don't think I had a teacher that really brought it out in me to do well in those subjects. I think I've always liked doing my own thing, and maybe that didn't sort of always sit well. But yeah, I think yeah, I think I just genuinely wanted to have fun and didn't really care about doing well as much as I should have done. I kind of hung around with like we were called the moshes, I guess then. So it was all like more the kind of music people who were into bands, and that kind of, I felt more comfortable if I was being a bit of a rebel, I guess. Although I was probably not being rebellious at all, but you know, I wanted to be. And I've never wanted to be bad. I mean, I don't think I've ever been like really naughty or got up to like proper trouble. I got my nose pierced when I was like 13. I managed to convince my grandma to take me to get it done, and my mum had no idea. So I thought I was really cool with that. Go to gigs. I started going to gigs quite early. In Wakefield there was a venue called Players, which was like the diviest of all the dive bars, and it was just amazing. I mean, we were all super young, we shouldn't have been out in pubs, but you managed to find the places where you can hide in corners and get away with it, and that was great. I just loved sort of going to see the bands and yeah, hanging out. It was good. So growing up, he was a fashion photographer, and he used to shoot a lot of catalogue stuff, as well as like image library, like posters for Athena, things like that. Even from being a baby, I would get used on photo shoots, because I guess getting a child model who's comfortable in front of the camera is going to be loads easier if it's your child, because you know how to make them laugh and make them do what you want them to do, I guess. He used to shoot like whole sections of toy catalogues for like the Empire Stores catalogue, so it'd be just going and playing with toys all day, which was great. You know, it never seemed like I was being a model or I was working. It was just, oh, go to the studio with your dad today and play with toys. So I was like, great, yeah. Yeah. So I think I saw from an early age how that industry worked. I used to love watching the makeup artists do the hair and makeup. And yeah, I liked sort of being around the studio and seeing the process, I guess. So I do feel like my childhood was a real mix of what my parents did. There would always be a camera around, and I used to, especially like Polaroid cameras, I used to always take lots of pictures of the animals. I guess they were like what was around to take pictures of. I guess maybe I thought, oh, I could go down the horsey route, or I could go down the photography route, and I guess that must have seemed less hard work. So I thought I'd go with that. So after I left school, I for a while I had a job at Vidal Sassoon's in Leeds, because I did think, oh, I want to be a makeup artist, but I didn't really, again, that kind of rebel side of like working in a place like that. While I was living in Leeds, I was going to a lot of gigs and like hanging out with people who were at art college, and I thought, oh, that sounds good, art college, yeah, I could, yeah. So just on a whim, I went to the art college and spoke to the photography tutor, and he said, oh yeah, we're enrolling, the course starts in 2 weeks, there's a place left, do you want it? I was like, yeah, all right. And it was a brilliant course, and I learned lots of things there that I'm sort of still using now, and just having that freedom to do whatever you want. As much as school, I didn't really sort of do well grades wise, but when I went to art college and I had the freedom, that's when I started to do well, yeah. And I was there for 2 years, and I wish I'd stayed longer because it was brilliant, and I think I'm forever trying to find a way of like, how can I go back to having that life? Yeah, it was good fun. I started working as a photographic assistant with my dad. He had a studio in Leeds, so I just started working as his assistant. My kind of roles were like making tea, which I kind of didn't really like doing. I should have been more enthusiastic about that really, but it was setting up lighting, painting sets, loading film into cameras, labelling all the rolls of film before they went off to get developed. And then I started to travel with him as well when he would do shoots abroad. Yeah, it was really cushy, and I love working with my dad as well, so it was just great hanging out with him every day, and sort of gaining experience while I was doing it without realising it really. I kind of did what a lot of people do and go, I'm gonna go to London. That's where stuff's happening, let's go there. Started working freelance with other photographers and in studios as well, like studio assisting. And then I started testing as well, so I was doing my own model shoots for the model agencies in London. And it was just fun, it was a really fun, I was there for a year, and it was a really fun year. I think it was the whole lifestyle that I enjoyed, and just hanging out and probably partying a bit too much, but I'm glad I did it then, because yeah, I guess I got that out of my system, so. Music probably is a really big part of my life, and letting my hair down, a bit of an escape. And I think I just feel really comfortable in that environment, sort of. I don't know if it's like you can just hide in a crowd, or yeah, just seeing the bands and seeing, like, meeting people you weren't going to meet otherwise. And yeah, I just enjoyed the scene and seeing things happen. And if I could go to a gig every night of the week, I would, yeah, and I did when I lived in London. So there's probably a part of me that would love to be a musician and have that be my life, and envy kind of that kind of lifestyle, but I've just never had any musical talent to kind of do that with. So I guess just being around it had to be enough. But yeah, maybe one day we'll make that happen. Sing it to my melodies. I'm sure I can play something. I don't know. I'm sure I learned some Christmas carols. They've gone. They've gone. Oh, hang on. It's more like that. The whole distinction. At this point I was travelling a lot, doing a lot of shoots abroad, like assisting, and I wanted to sort of try and sort of make more of a jump into shooting my own stuff and getting more of my own clients. So moving back up like took away all the kind of temptations to be doing other stuff and made me kind of focus on work a bit more, and it worked. And I moved back up to York. I bought a house. I got my first agent, who was in Manchester, and I felt like she kind of really took a chance on me, and I was sort of shooting in Manchester a lot and starting to build up my own clients, and that was really fun. And yeah, that's when things kind of started shifting more, that I was the photographer rather than the assistant. Yeah, just kind of, yeah, so I guess like mid-20s to early 30s, that was when I was shooting a lot of my own stuff. So it was great. I got to go to Cape Town, Miami, New York, to Spain quite a lot, and I loved that, being able to travel and see these places. Yeah, they're mostly sort of fashion brands, quite a lot of magazine work. I love doing the fashion editorials because that just seemed not glamorous, because I was never really doing anything glamorous, but it seemed more exciting to have your work published in a magazine and see it on a shelf. So yeah, I think anything that I knew was going to be finished in a magazine or anything, that was like really exciting, and those were the jobs that I wanted to be doing. So I was at a part in my career, I'd always kind of envisaged that, right, I'll be in my 30s, my portfolio looks great, I'm getting the jobs and the clients that I want, and maybe because I'm in my 30s people take me more seriously. And I was just sort of on the verge of signing with the most amazing agent in London, who I'd, you know, dreamed of being with for years. And it was like everything I'd worked for, and every kind of hard work and sacrifice that I'd made, it like led to this point. And then I got ill. I'd started sort of waking up in the middle of the night with the room spinning, and kind of like when you've been really drunk and you get that horrible room spin, and it's just really, you just feel awful. But I wasn't like having a drink, it was just coming out of nowhere. So that happened a few times, and I got diagnosed with Ménière's disease. And it's an autoimmune disease that affects your inner ears, and yeah, there's various symptoms, and vertigo, deafness, like constant tinnitus, like just being unstable on your feet really. And I was kind of hit with them all at once, and had gone from living this life I wanted to live to not being able to stand up most days. So it was a real shock to the system, and it took me a long time to kind of accept it and deal with it. And you know how when you've been to the hospital or the doctors and they've just gone, take these tablets, go away, there's nothing else we can do, it's a chronic condition, there's no cure. And you're like, yeah, but I've stuff to do, I want to be doing stuff, like I can't just go away and be ill. For a long time as well, I think I tried to fight it, and I kept working and I kept taking on jobs and being so sick and poorly and trying to carry on like normal, which just made me worse, and really bad anxiety, because I was trying to like drive to jobs and having vertigo attacks in the car on the way there, and just sort of being stuck in the middle of nowhere, and I hated feeling like I had to be rescued, and I hated having to depend on other people. And yeah, so it was just like having all your freedom and all like your life taken away. It took a long time to kind of get my head around it and figure out, you know, like for a long time I was like, oh, is this my life now? Is there nothing, you know? I couldn't even like walk very far, I couldn't take the dogs out, I couldn't drive, so I was kind of stuck sort of a bit out of the way, and I couldn't do anything, so I was just sort of housebound for quite a while. And I I did get quite bad anxiety as well, because I would sort of go out to places like going to York and feel very overwhelmed, and I hated the thought of like being somewhere and not, oh, what if I get an attack? You know, it became like a fear thing, like, because certain situations would sort of make you feel more dizzy, so you'd start avoiding those situations, and then you just wouldn't do anything because it was too scary to do those things, and then you kind of lose your sense of self. Like, I couldn't go to gigs, I couldn't, you know, just drive and go see my friends in Leeds, and I just felt very isolated, and yeah, felt like you'd lost your kind of part of yourself. Yeah. If I hadn't had such great support from my parents, I would have lost my house. I wouldn't, yeah, it would have been a very different story for sure. So I'm really forever thankful to be blessed with, you know, lovely parents and a good situation, because a lot of people in this situation who didn't have that, I don't know what you'd do. It'd be, yeah, it's pretty scary that you can sort of be so, you know, earning great money one day and then just have nothing the next. It's quite terrifying. I was sitting around, I had no creative outlet, and that was kind of as frustrating as the illness, not being able to do that side of things. I thought, I've never done a magazine, I wonder if I could do that. Oh well, let's have a go. That's how Caboodle started. I used old shoots that had never been published, so I couldn't physically like go and take the photos, but I could sit on my laptop and like design a, well, it's almost like a fake magazine. I mean, I'd never used InDesign or any design software, so that was a huge learning curve, figuring out how that worked, not really figuring out whether I could do it or not. That wasn't an option, it was just, I'm gonna do it, so let's figure out how and just get on with it. I was approaching brands that I thought fit well with it, but we didn't have a magazine that had done before, so that people were just going into it really blind, like advertising a magazine that didn't exist yet. But they did, and it was crazy, and so that paid to get it out there. So I did 1,000 copies of the first issue, and did a few sort of print fairs, and I got a few different stockists, like magazine shops would stock them, and bookshops, and then sold them all. And then I was like, oh, I should make another one. The issue one was like sort of realising it could be done, and then the issues going on from that was maybe like, how can I make it what I want it to be visually. And I mean, like the first few issues, like I can't even really look at them now because the fonts are horrific and the layouts are pretty horrible, and by issue 6 or 7 it started to look a bit more like how I wanted it to, and I think that really pushed me to start doing shoots again, like, you know, just doing things that felt achievable, so photographing sort of creatives in their workshops, so no kind of big fashion shoots at first, but just sort of things that felt I could work around my illness. The last 4 issues I'm really proud of, but the last 2 issues just felt perfect. And I had my friend Jade Blood, who's a printmaker. She came on board as the art editor, and a few other creatives. It just felt like the right team of people working on it for these 2 issues, and I think maybe that's why I wanted to take a break from it, because I felt like I felt like it had peaked a bit, and I didn't want it to start feeling like a chore or not be as good. And I think I was just ready for a bit of a change, so that's why after 10's come out I thought, right, I'll have a year off from it and then decide how to bring it back after that when I'm ready. That was a big kind of part of getting me more active and feeling like not, I don't know what the word is, like not creatively worthy, but I was doing something that was good or seemed cool, or I wasn't just being a sick person anymore, and that felt really important. I actually took my mum for a Mother's Day kind of taster workshop at the pottery down the road, Fangfoss Pottery, and so it was meant to be like a gift for her, but I went as well, and then was just, after the 2 hours, I was just obsessed. I was like, this feels so good. Like, I don't know, just something about having your hands in clay and making something from scratch that just didn't exist half an hour ago. It just felt so exciting. So then I was like, right, how can I do this more often? And found in Bugthorpe there's Make and Take Ceramics, which is mostly like a pottery painting place, but they also have a couple of wheels, and did lessons. So I went there for a few lessons and started joining in the weekly Tuesday mornings. They'd have a session where just a lot of locals would go, and I got to meet some, I mean, yeah, I was probably like the youngest person there, and it was brilliant. I got to meet some really nice people, and sort of go there every week and have a chat and a natter and make some stuff. But then once a week wasn't enough. I was like fully addicted, and I was like, right, I have to set up at home. Yes, that's when I set up in the garage, and then slowly just taught myself, to be honest. A lady called Valerie, who runs Zoz Pots, she was really kind and came round and showed me how to use my kiln and gave me a lesson on the wheel, and that was quite a pivotal moment, because she taught me some things that made everything make sense a bit more. So yeah, but other than that, it's just all been self-taught and practice and trial and error and lots of wobbly pots. And yeah, sort of after about a year, something just clicked and it just started to feel really natural, and then it just like became an obsession, and it was all I could think about. It's all I wanted to be doing. So it just felt like the right time to kind of have a change and switch. So yeah, now I've kind of gone full time with the pottery, and it's just, yeah, it's just really wonderful.
Yeah. What about the name? Where's that come from?
Oh, well, yeah, the name. I think when I was at the Bugthorpe Pottery, people said, oh, you need to have a little maker's mark on the bottom rather than just write Katy on all the pots. So I just drew a monstera leaf because, you know, I guess it's kind of cool at the time, I don't know, but it just stuck. And so then Here Be Monsteras was kind of a play on words of Here Be Monsters, and I always thought that I'd probably have to change the name to something more like grown up, I don't know, like proper, if I did anything with it. But by that time it had stuck and people had said they liked it, so I just kind of went with it, yeah. I never really set out for it to be a business, because I loved it so much for being my hobby, and it was like my escape and my me time, and I was desperate not to make it a business because that might take the fun out of it. I feel like it was almost like a byproduct of the hobby, because I was like hoarding pots and my house was full and I was giving loads away, so it was almost like, right, I should do a market and just sell some, just then I've got some more money to buy more clay. A lady called Maria, who runs the cafe at the art gallery, saw my work and said, oh, do you want to sell the stuff in my shop? So that was amazing. She was like my first stockist, and lots of other people had kind of seen my work and got in touch. So a guy called Russ, who runs the kiosk coffee shop on Fossgate, I would go in there and notice that he had really nice ceramics, so I took him in a cup that I'd made as, maybe it was a bit of a sneaky gift, I don't know. I was just like, what do you think to this? Because it had always been a dream to like have my stuff being used in a cafe, and he liked it. And then I ended up taking him a load in to have a look at, and he said, oh, I'll take the lot. I was like, what? And yeah, I think if ever you're in kiosks, it's a cool place, but if there's ever like a weird woman at the window watching you, it's probably me, because I'm just like, they're using my cups. So I lower the tone maybe when I go in there, because I'm just like in awe of people actually drinking out of my cups. But that's led to other cafes. Lottie the baker's I've just made a big order for her, so she'll be serving off plates as well, so that's the first kind of plate order that I did. And yeah, I think if I can do more commission orders for cafes and restaurants, that makes me super happy, because I just want things to be out there being enjoyed. So yeah, how cool. When I started doing the pottery, that just felt like all consuming in a way that no other craft or creative thing had. And I think when you got your hands on the clay and you're doing something, you just don't think of anything else. And that was just like magic. I've never had that before, because I'm a big overthinker. So I've like had a lifetime of overthinking everything and, you know, worrying about things. And it was just suddenly been switched off, and I was like, oh my God, yeah, this is a magic. So I think that's why I've really clung to wanting to do it full time. Yeah, because, you know, if I can do that, I'm really in the moment, and nothing else has brought me that, I guess.
Sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, you'll have to have a go.
I know.
I've definitely like reached a point I didn't think I'd get to, in that I feel like I'm living a normal life. I couldn't tell you a day in the last 10 years where I've felt well, or I've like not noticed my illness, but the good days massively outweigh the bad now. I went to a gig, it's probably a couple of years ago now, and it was one of the first times I'd been back to a gig since I'd been ill, and I was just like, oh my God, I feel like me again. So that was like, that pushed me to do more. But I've reached the point where I'm living kind of the life I want to live, and that's just feels like a massive achievement. And I guess I'm grateful to the people that have stuck around through this, and, you know, to my parents, and like the forever like entertained every stupid crazy idea I've ever had, you know, like, oh, I'm gonna be a potter now. They're like, great, make us some cups, you know, like. And just to like friends, like, I guess before I was ill, I was maybe too focused on career and work, and my best friend Lexa, like the times I've probably not put her first, and, you know, Lexa's really stuck by my side through everything, and you realise that your real soulmate is your friend who's been there through it all along. So I think I'm just really cherishing my time with these people who are in my life for the right reasons and always will be. Being ill and feeling like you've hit rock bottom makes you appreciate the little things, and yeah, I think I'm a better person for it, for sure.
I guess the final question then is, what's the dream?
What's the dream? I guess just being well and doing things I enjoy. Yeah, if I could just sort of live my life making pots, you know, walking my dogs, and seeing the bits of life I want to see, then that's it. I've achieved what I want to, and yeah, I guess then, yeah, you've won, haven't you, if you can just do the things you want to do. So yeah, keep trying.